That's a new one.
With other math, I know, yeah. Thank you, yeah. As a faculty member, we're eligible to get all the Q2 math. Am I the first professor you've seen with some of these? Yeah. Okay, yeah, they were out for a week or two, or a couple of days, or something like that. So we got them today.
Is it more or less?
No, it's actually pretty comfortable. It's pretty good, actually. It's better than the one I had on Monday. I think it was an old one, so it kept slipping. If you noticed, I was like every 5 seconds, I was like, ah. So this one, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm really glad. My dad was hard of hearing starting when I was in elementary school, and so he's really good at lip reading, and I also kind of got into it, and so these maps drive me crazy sometimes. So if anybody else in that boat, hopefully this will be helpful. So, yeah, to read lips and just see, get to know more about the person. Good. So we'll slowly go ahead and get started. It's 4 o'clock. Yes. So we're going to go through 3 major areas today. We're going to start with the syllabus. There are 5 sections of the syllabus that I want to review. As I mentioned, I don't go through the syllabus A to Z, but there are some major points that I want to hit upon so that you're super clear on some big projects. And then we're going to talk about 3 major frameworks that are included in this course. We're going to go outside for a portion, so we're going to match up again, pair up, and introduce your partner again with another aspect. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we'll finish the class with the 90-second discussion forum that is due today, this evening. And again, I'll talk more about what that means. And I'm also going to do your seating chart. I think I forgot to mention on Monday's intersection that I have to do a seating chart for everybody, and you have to choose the same seat every time you come in. And that's for COVID contact tracing. So if anybody gets sick during the semester, we can go back and contact all the other students that have been sitting around them to let them know. So I assume that's happening in all of your classes, right? But nobody else mentioned that. I know. I kind of say it again. What? Really? Yeah. No. All right. Well, I feel like I need to check that box, but so I will do the seating chart. Maybe they're just gonna do it in 20 weeks. I'm not sure. But so in any case, and it also helps each other and helps us to keep names with faces and things like that. I won't be doing attendance every week or every class just because I feel like you're 3rd or 4th year students and it's your responsibility to come to class or not, or to learn the material. But I do keep track of participation, obviously, right? So I will get to know you, get to know your names, and I want to hear questions and comments, etc. So, so I don't do formal attendance tracking, but kind of in the big picture, I get to know who's here. And so for the seating chart, if you don't like your seat, after we go outside to do an exercise here, come back in and choose the seat that you'd like to have for the rest of the semester. Good. Any questions so far? So let's go ahead and hop into the syllabus. You're welcome to take out your copy, or you can just follow along with me here on the overhead. Let's go ahead and start with the Ishmael paper. So as I mentioned on Monday, you have a paper coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks. Is your first paper. It's just 5 pages, pretty straightforward. But I wanted to go through it because as I highly recommend that you get the book as soon as possible and start reading it. It takes about 8 hours or so either to listen to it or to read it, but it's somewhat deep, and so you might want to think about it. So that's what the instructions here say. I'll just go ahead and read the instructions. During the semester, you're to read the novel Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. It's a short book and it is easy to read. At the same time, it's intended to prompt through thought and deep reflection. It requires a good deal of time post-reading to let the ideas germinate. You'll probably want to reread sections as you write your essay, and the earlier you read it, the more it will enlighten other parts of this course. So, as I mentioned, don't procrastinate. The Ishmael essay has 2 goals. The first is to ensure that you read and fully encourage the themes, ideas, and lessons of the book. And the second and more important is to encourage you to think deeply and critically about its themes, ideas, and lessons. And so that's why we encourage you to read it as soon as possible, because the ideas will come up again and again. And then it's not just understanding what happens in the book, but thinking about how it affects your life and what you want to do with your life after graduation. Let me finish reading and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. The assignment is to write a 5-page double-spaced reflective essay that explores your reactions, emotions, and thoughts about Ishmael and its application to your home country and anticipated career. The assignment is somewhat vague in order to give you room to explore thoughts and deeply reflect. Some guidelines to help as you prepare your essay. So I don't want a summary of the book, right? You can Google Ishmael by Daniel Payne and you'll find lots of summaries on the internet, but that's not the goal of this book, right? I've read the book too, right? So I just want to hear your thoughts and your ideas and how it's affecting your life. And there are lots of different things that go into the book, but just choose like 2 to 4 main points. We'll go through how to structure that essay in the next couple of weeks, but it'll be most likely 3 main points. So choose 3 big ideas in the book and talk to me about those ideas and again, how they've affected your life. So I don't want a summary. If you need to summarize some main ideas in the book to make your argument, fine, but that summary should make a very small portion of your essay. This is meant to be a personal reflection, not an academic review or analysis. There are many third-party papers available that are academic reviews. Submitting that type of paper in fulfillment of this assignment will earn a 0 for the assignment. Your essay should contain a thesis in the beginning, and that I will go through a full class period of what that thesis is and how that comes together. And the rest of the essay should be written in support of your thesis. It does not mean it has to be a persuasive essay, but it means it needs to have a clear focus and organization. The thesis can be whatever you want it to be, as broad and narrow as you wish, but it must exist and your job is to develop and support it. So hopefully this is ringing some bells of your English class, your other ethics class potentially, where you've written an essay, hopefully nothing too new. Your essay should clearly demonstrate what you have read and reflected on the entire book. Reading and responding to just one chapter won't cut it. It should not be a collection of your musings about life. It should be grounded in the broad themes of the book or particular ideas that you find poignant and your developed reactions to them. Almost done here. Your essay must be personal, such as this book made me feel. It's not academic, such as Ishmael explored themes of such and such, and when evaluated through the lens of such and such, there are interesting connections to, etc. I want to know how the book affected you personally, and it should not be wholly abstract either. So give me examples of how it affected you, maybe in some decisions that you've made, or the thoughts that you have around activities that you do, or relationships that you have, things like that. Concrete examples, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not going to grade you on your opinion. That's impossible. You'll be graded on your understanding of the text, broad themes, ideas, main messages as you demonstrate it with your writing, the appropriateness, depth, and quality of your thesis, how well you support your thesis, including the organization, diction, grammar, eloquence, and conciseness, and the depth of your analysis. It should be a level of synthesis, taking the ideas of the book, combining them with your own ideas and knowledge to create novel ideas and deep reflection, not on your description. And lastly, while reading the book, keep notes of the things you find interesting, poignant, mind-blowing, unconvincing, wrong, etc. Reading this book will prompt thoughts. If you are stumped in any way, come talk to me. I'm happy to discuss and support your reflection. And the Ishmael paper is due before the scheduled class time is posted on the class schedule. So yeah, questions so far, what that looks like, that reflection paper. Has anybody had a problem getting the book? No. Has anybody started the book? Yeah, okay, Thomas, yeah. Okay, good. How's it going so far? Okay, perfect. Okay, good, excellent. Okay, great. As I mentioned last class, I think that I feel like the first 20%, I was kind of like, where is this headed? But then it starts to come together a little bit. And yeah, and it starts to come out like these theories, the idea of natural law, etc. So my dad is reading it right now, actually, and he likes it so far. Good question.
Do you have an example of that might help us?
Right, exactly. I do have examples, but we try not to give you examples for this one just because that we want to, because it's so unique to you as a person. The paper isn't due for another 3 to 4 weeks, and we're going to talk more about it. And that one of the big things that we're going to talk through is your thesis and organization. So I think that it'll be a lot more clear as we go forward if there's any confusion. And also, I'm a big fan of resubmitting work. So if you are creating something and you're outlining or drafting something and you're not sure if it's on target, please submit it to me, ask me questions. I'm happy to give you feedback before it's due, for sure. That I feel like we're all in this together. You know, this is a conversation that I definitely want to help you learn at the end of the day. Right? I'm not here just to give you an assignment and then grade it. You know? So, and then if you get an F, it doesn't matter. No, it does matter, right? We want to make sure that you take away some valuable information from the course. And that being said too, that you know, that if it comes in and in the first 2 paragraphs, I see a lot of errors when it comes to punctuation and grammar, I will actually pass it back to you and ask you to go to the writing center and get it updated and then resubmit. So if it comes in and it's totally off, then I will ask you to resubmit right away. And so that kind of leads into my next thing that I wanted to talk about too was the writing center as well. Has anybody engaged with the writing center before, gotten somebody in the writing center to edit their papers? Have you? Yeah. Was it a good experience?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Free proofread, right? Yeah. Exactly, right? But they are their tutors there, right, to just give you some feedback, right? Okay, very cool. Good. Yeah, that it's a great opportunity. Again, especially if you're unsure if this is really where you're headed or where you're supposed to be, that the writing center is there. And all the links to the writing center are here in the syllabus too. So I talked about the flag, and so yeah, here it is. So there's a link here to the writing center. There's some other writing resources, and again, I'll go through these links in more detail throughout the semester, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that they were here and that we really encourage you to use these things. Academic writing and writing style, general writing outline, thesis formulation. As I mentioned on Monday, understanding what a thesis is a really big part of your grade in this course. And then using and citing resources. For this Ishmael paper, there are really no sources, again, because it's really your opinion and your experience. There'll be one source for sure, the Ishmael book, and maybe there'll be a second one if you did some additional research on something. But there are really no sources. It's the second paper that I'm going to go through next that has 15 sources required. Oh yeah, Grammarly, totally. So if you are an LMU student, you have a free account for Grammarly, the website, that as you type, right, it edits your punctuation and your grammar. I highly recommend that you use it, especially if English is your second language. These tools are out there. They will be available for you, after graduation. So just please use them because it really makes it the paper better, but makes it easier for the person to read. And you can also use Grammarly on your discussion board posts. So as I mentioned on Monday, the discussion forums that will start today, we have a handful, 25 or 6, before you hand in your first paper. And those discussion forums are like a warm-up for your paper. So it's an opportunity for me to give you feedback on your writing style, see how you write, talking, again about making a clear, concise argument or some sort of clear logic. And then hopefully when we come to the Ishmael paper, it will be easy to move through creating that thesis and the 3 main points. Good. Questions so far on the Ishmael paper or anything we've spoken about so far today? Okay, great. So let's then talk about the next paper, the business ethics paper. So this is on page 8 of your syllabus. And this one isn't due until like the midterm or so, but I wanted to show it to you today so you can start to think about it, and also so that you can contrast the Ishmael paper from this business ethics paper. So again, I'll read it. Each student shall provide a business ethics analysis paper examining an important ethical issue related to a business industry and their current practices. Students may choose one of the 2 following topics. If there's a different topic you'd like to work on, just let me know, but most students stick to one of these 2 topics. For each topic, some required resources are listed. Your research should not be limited to this list. However, you're required to study these resources and integrate their topics and data in your examination of the topic. So the first topic is fashion, and I'd say 80% of students choose the fashion topic because there's a lot more research and evidence and sources out there for it. The other one is a social justice topic. It's talking about COVID or the Black Lives Matter campaign. So talking about fashion, what you would do if you chose fashion for this paper, you're going to select an item of clothing from your wardrobe, shoes, jeans, t-shirts, whatever, and identify the company that made it, its material, the country manufacturing and supply chain, from extraction of raw materials to distribution and disposal. You write a 15-page paper examining the questions of ethics and sustainability as it relates to this product. Your paper must include extensive research. And again, I won't click on these right now, but we will go review these sites before you have to write this paper. And then with this research on your clothing item, you're to create an essay examining fashion, ethics, and sustainability. This paper is to include, again, a thesis, developed research and a conclusion, studying your clothing item and your evaluation of the ethics and the company's current practices vis-a-vis your clothing item. So like last semester, someone wrote a paper on H&M. And that is a good example because, right, H&M creates most of their products abroad. And also they've done people have done a lot of research on how H&M produces their products. So there's a lot of research out there for that. There's been a lot of criticism, right, for the most part. Another student chose Timberland, the boots. And that was much more uplifting because Timberland has done a lot of work on making sure that their ethical practices are tried and true, and that they really treat their workers in a fair and equitable fashion. So those are just 2 examples of how that would work. The next topic, just to compare that. Oh, so yeah, I detailed outline is due, and then there's a rough draft and a final draft. The next topic is the COVID Black livelihood, and I should say it's COVID or Black lives, not them together. You want to examine a business issue or labor practice of a company you choose in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic and the racial injustice and equity protests. So, like, for example, you could choose Delta Airlines because just a few days ago or a week ago, Brandon?
Sorry, like the fashion, can you use Apple too?
You can, yeah. And that's a good point. So choose a company or industry that, or COVID or something that you are interested in. So if you are thinking about working for Apple or working with Apple products after graduation, I highly recommend that you use this opportunity to get to know them a little bit better. So you're going to spend a lot of time on this project because I said it's 15 pages, 15 sources. And so it will be hours that you will be getting to know this topic. So definitely choose something that you're passionate about. And as I said, a great opportunity to get to know something about a company that you might work for after graduation. Good question. Yeah, so I was going to bring up Delta Airlines, and maybe you want to work for Delta, but Delta last week said that they were going to have a $200 increase to the health insurance cost deduction for the employees who decide not to get vaccinated for COVID. And so that's an ethical decision, right? Now, are they discriminating against the employees who decide not to get the COVID vaccine? But at the same time, the statistics show that if you don't get the vaccine, there's a good chance that you will have more medical costs potentially if you get sick, and then that will cost the company money, right? And so what is the right decision? And so over the next few weeks, this is now midterm, right? Or close to the midterm, so it's 7 or 8 weeks. We're going to go through all these ethical frameworks that help us decide what is the right ethical decision. And so this paper, you will use there are 5 major ethical frameworks that we talked about in this course. And so you will analyze that decision through each of these frameworks. And that's the goal of this course, is to introduce to you that there are many different sides to a story. We need to look at many different sides, or need to look at all sides, and that the decision is sometimes not clear, and that there's not just one way to come to a decision. Like there are a handful of frameworks, and in this course we study just 5 of those. Questions on these, what I've talked, anything we've spoken about so far? I won't go through word for word here, but the idea is the same from the fashion. There's some links here that you'll need to include. As I said here are the 5 sources of ethical standards. So those are the 5 frameworks that you'll want to discuss with this topic. And yeah, with this research, you are to create an essay examining equity, ethics, and sustainability. The papers include a thesis, develop research, and a conclusion studying a business practice related to equity and your evaluation of the ethics of the company's current practices. And again, here are the links for the writing source, writing resources. And as I mentioned, last thing about this, there's an outline due, a rough draft, and a final draft. That takes us into the next thing I want to talk about in the syllabus is the grade tally. So if you're in your syllabus, here it's on page 7. I linked to a spreadsheet here. I highlight all the major pieces of your grade this semester, and I just cut and paste these things and I put it into an Excel spreadsheet where you'll see now where each of these items, how they come together. So like the number of items is the first column. So the Ishmael paper, there's only 1 of those, but then the discussion forums, there are 11 of those. So as I spoke about on Monday, every week we have a discussion forum where you need to log in and post your 90-second reflection on what we've spoken about in the last 2 class periods. So that's what we're going to do at the end of class today. I'm going to allow you to log in, or if you haven't brought a device to log in, you can just write down your thoughts on the last 2 classes. You post that, and then you have to comment on 3 student posts. So we do that 11 times throughout the semester. But then I also have 4 discussion forums, so deeper discussions. And you'll see that they have more points. So the quick ones are just 4 points, but the heavier ones are 8 points. But this is what I was just talking about, the ethics case. So there's an outline, a rough draft, and a final draft. But you'll notice here that the outline and the rough draft are both 30 points. And the final draft actually is only 15 points. Because I want to make sure that your foundation is really strong. That if we get into the final draft and you're not doing well on the first 2 pieces, we're not headed in a good direction, right? And so I want you to put in a lot more effort at the beginning. As I said, I teach public speaking quite a bit, and so there's a lot of writing of these speeches. And so I grade the outline, and I can pretty much tell how the speech is going to go after I grade the outline. I usually don't even have to watch the speech to grade it, because I know that if the outline is quality, then the speech delivery will be just fine, and vice versa. If the outline is all over the place, then they're going to have a hard time meeting the time limit. They're going to have a hard time delivering. It's not going to be good. So that's why I wait, I guess. I give you more points for creating your outline and your rough draft. And I said it's a process, so feel free to submit early and we can review it if need be. Question, Dylan.
I see the anti-force project, and I remember on Monday you were discussing that you can't do a project or like a company that's already been done. How do we check that?
Right, so there's an Aim to Flourish website, and you can Google or not Google, search for it, and it'll tell you if the company's already been done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's a good question. Yeah, the Aim to Flourish is like this whole network of projects for university students, and so yeah, so the chances and like say you want to do Citibank or something like this, right? Citibank, yes, is there, but it'll tell you like who that group spoke to at Citibank, and if you're speaking to someone different, then you can do that company. And yeah, we don't want to like exhaust the same people is what it is. Yeah, so that's a good question, Dylan. Thank you. Yeah, and so that Aim to Flourish project, I'm not going to go through it today because it's really at the end of the semester and I don't want to overload you with information, but we will review it in a couple of weeks. It is a group project, and yep, you're interviewing executives to understand their corporate social responsibility ideas and themes, including mindfulness and how they treat their employees, things like that. And it is, as I said, it's a group project, but you get graded individually. So you do peer reviews at the end of that project, and if the reviews come back that one particular member wasn't doing so well, I take that into consideration, obviously. So I know that some professors, when it's a group project, everybody gets the same grade. That's not how I grade. I grade you all individually. Yeah, and it's usually a pretty fun project. And as I mentioned on Monday, there's a little bit of overlap. The due date is in between the rough draft and the final draft for the ethics case. But hopefully, most of your work for the ethics case will be done when you hand in your rough draft. And actually, for some of you, you won't even need to revise anything for your final draft in the ethics case. That's the idea. Okay, good. Questions so far? Okay, good. And then, as I spoke about on Monday, there's one midterm and one final, just multiple choice, invite space, based on the textbook chapters. And then there's a participation grade, as I mentioned at the beginning of class today. That is just at my personal discretion, 20 points based on your attendance in class, how you speak up in class, and also on your discussion forums as well. So I give everybody an opportunity to participate both in the oral form as well as in the written form, right? Because some people don't like to speak in class, are intimidated, etc. And also some people are more clear in one form or the other. For me personally, I'm a lot more clear in my written form than I actually am in my spoken form, in the oral form. So I'll give everybody hopefully an opportunity to contribute in multiple ways.
So for the discussion post, how like detailed are you looking for a post or how many sentences, like just kind of like rough guideline?
Right, exactly. So here in the okay, good. So here in the expectations for learner participation in discussion forums, in hindsight, I should have separated out the weekly discussions from the bigger discussions, but the idea is kind of the same, that I said here, I know you're participating when you log in 3 to 4 days per week, about every other day. That's for the bigger discussions. For the quick ones, it's just 90 seconds. So it's just a sentence or two for your initial post and your comments. But for the bigger ones, those 4 big ones, yes, I want this to replicate any type of in-class discussion. And I like it because you can actually do external research and take your time, think about it, come back, etc. And so I want you to interact with your peers throughout the week on a frequent and consistent basis for those bigger ones. As I mentioned, that for the bigger ones, I have you post like next week. I think we have one coming up. Your initial post is due by Friday night. And then I give you all 2 days to do your comments so that by Sunday night, everyone has participated, and then I grade everything on Monday morning. For the discussion forum tonight, today, I'm going to give you like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end of class to do your initial post and maybe even comment if that happens. And then you have until midnight tonight to do your 3 comments. But as I said, it's pretty quick, and then I grade that all tomorrow morning. And so the biggest thing here, though, is a non-example. If you log in 5 minutes before a deadline, right, post your initial response, then 3 replies on a discussion forum. It does not meet expectation for adequate participation, deprives you and your peers of an opportunity to interact in a rich and meaningful manner. On the other hand, if it's time to log in and read through the discussion prompt and initial replies, take some time to think and come back later to input your response. I don't know the difference between a thoughtful response and a harried one. So, and then complete preparatory tasks, assignments, and assessments on time. So for like our first discussion forum in a week or two, you have to watch an hour-long video, and then you have to comment on that video in the discussion. And since we are 4th year students, I locked it so that you have to post first before you can see other posts. Right? In freshman year classes, they're still getting used to this, so I don't let them see other posts and things, but not here. Okay, good, Taylor.
So will it stay consistent, like throughout the semester, that the 90-second post, the day that we post, the comments will be due
At midnight, exactly. Yep, thank you for clarifying that. Exactly, yep. I didn't write that down. Yeah, John?
So with like comments on other people's posts, what are you expecting from that?
Right.
I'm not gonna laugh like before I like, yeah, I agree with this, like that's my comment. Like, I don't know, what do you want?
Right.
to comment on the post?
Exactly. And the first couple of posts, for the first couple of forums, I will be lenient on the grading because I know we're still getting into this. But that's a good question, right? Like, I want you to connect with whatever it is they said. So if you also find it interesting, say why you find it interesting. Or if someone posted about their service trip, say like, actually, I also did a service trip and this is how that connected with my experience. So I want you to use it, especially at the beginning, yes, a way to connect and find commonalities, but I want it to be more than just like, great idea, I agree, right? Exactly, yeah. Okay, good. I think there are 2 questions, right? So Brandon first,
We do questions. We always have time in class to do them. We don't know the whole time.
Good question. So I will always give you a time in class to do them, and not necessarily the 10 or 15 minutes like I will today, only because that's our first time. I'll give you like maybe 5 minutes. But also you're welcome to go in before it's due, so you don't have to wait till class to do it. So like, for example, like the next one is due, I can look at it here actually, then so the next one, see, we do this one on Wednesday, but then we don't have class next week, so on Monday, so then I switched it so that we will be doing them all on Mondays. And so, yes, the reflection is supposed to be due on the 2 classes, but if you feel that Mondays after class, you're rushed and you don't want to have to worry about doing these posts, then feel free to do it over the weekend and then just comment on either the last class or comment on the readings. So like we'll have already been through chapter 1. So make a comment about chapter 1 over the Uber case. And in theory, you should have already prepared chapter 9 and also done, well, this is a discussion for, but you've already prepared chapter 9. So feel free to do your weekly reflection before you even come to class on Monday. You'll have enough material to make comments. Yeah, and if enough people do it, then you can even make your comments as well. That makes sense? Okay, good. Did you have a question, Caleb?
No.
Okay, good. And if it sounds kind of confusing with the scheduling, don't worry. It'll become more clear in a week or 2 once we get into the groove and things. And I'll always put here like what your homework is. So we don't have class on Monday, as I mentioned, so next Wednesday, by next Wednesday, you need to read chapter 1, and you're going to watch the videos of me reviewing chapter 1 as well, because next Wednesday, we're going to be reviewing chapter 1 and we're going to be doing that Uber case. So as I mentioned on Monday, I'm not going to go through the chapter from A to Z because it becomes kind of dry and a little boring, right? And so I will make it much more interactive. And so I want you to all prepare ahead of time. Okay, good. Questions. And feel free to hop ahead. It's Labor Day weekend, you have an extra day off. Feel free to, start to do this bigger discussion forum. For this one, as I mentioned, the initial post is due by Friday evening, and then student comments are due by Sunday at midnight. So, and that is a bigger one. That's a video, an hour-long video that you have to comment on. And so that brings us into comment, which I just thought of and then I forgot. Oh yeah, workload expectations. So okay, good. So hopefully this is not new because you're all are in your fourth year, but let's go through the workload expectations for this course. A credit hour, right, at LMU is defined as a minimum of 3 hours of work by an average student per week for a 15-week semester. This is a 4 credit hour course, so it's expected that there will be a total of 12 hours of classwork per week, of which class time accounts for 3 hours of work per week. This means that on average, the student will be expected to spend 9 hours per week outside of class reading the chapters, working homework problems, and studying for exams and quizzes. The workload may vary throughout the semester, with some weeks requiring more than 9 hours per week, outside of some weeks requiring less, but the average workload should approximate a minimum of 9 hours per week of study time. So that's what I was going to say, that on our class schedule. Yeah, this week, you're gonna, on this Monday, you're gonna have to read chapter 9, and you're gonna have to do that weekly reflection, and you're gonna have to do the bigger discussion forum. It might accumulate to more than 9 hours. But then the following week, this writing, reasoning, etc., you don't have to do anything to prepare. You just come and I'm going to talk to you about introductions, conclusions, and citing sources. But I do want to make this clear because I feel like sometimes people will be studying, learning outside of class, and I say this is so much work. But actually, when you look at the time, it actually is, calculated that it should be about 9 hours per week. Okay, questions on any of that? Okay, great. So I think that's everything that I want to review with the syllabus. I'm not sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, and as I said before, you hand in any of these big papers, we will be talking about things like the major frameworks: natural law, virtue, utilitarianism, deontology, and justice. So those vocabulary words will be more fluid and more useful as we move forward. Good. So let's go ahead and talk about this, the frameworks. So there's some key frameworks that we talk about in this course, and so I'm going to review them here. The first one is, there's just 3 frameworks that we want to discuss today. The first one is sustainability. And this is what this chart here says, that there are 3 major areas of what we call sustainability, right? And the idea of sustainability is continuing something, an idea, an initiative until the end of time, or to make that continuous and infinite and not deplete the particular resource or whatever it might be. So the top one is social progress, right? You're all familiar now with diversity, human rights after the last year, right? Equal opportunity, standards of living, health, identity, and meaning. And so how social progress or diversity, let's talk about human rights. How that pertains to sustainability is that the idea is that if we have diverse organizations, diverse universities, then we have a better society going forward, right? We have more ideas within the university, we have more inputs, we have better decisions, we have more ethical ideas for society as a whole, right? So it's sustainable. So that's all about social progress or human rights, right? So if we, give everyone the right to vote, then that promotes society going forward. People feel like they have input to the society, they have input to the government, then they are happier and they can continue to support the society. And then the other one, economic stability, this one I find really interesting for those of us who study business, right? Because the economy is all about money. What is economic stability? Consumption patterns, distribution of wealth, efficient production, research and development. And again, all these ideas will go much deeper into this in this course, but I want to give you a little overview of what we'll be studying. And so economic stability, I like to think of, I mean, there are lots of great examples, but let's talk about distribution of wealth for a moment, right? And so distribution of wealth is a big topic in this country right now, right? Because the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, right? Not good, right? Not sustainable. I think of the French Revolution, right? That the rich got very rich, the poor got very poor, and then there was a huge war that caused a lot of destruction for the country. And when we have war, we're not moving forward on a sustainable platform. Same thing with the American Revolution, right? The no taxation without representation, that England was getting richer, everybody in what are now called the United States were paying all these high taxes. And again, that created a war. So this distribution of wealth issue is one to be looked at, and a big topic that we'll be talking about this semester. Contributes to sustainability. Again, I could go on and on about these topics, but I just want to give you a little taste of what this means. In environmental stewardship, this is where we talk about sustaining the plants and the animals on the environment and pollution, etc. So this is natural resource protection, pollution prevention, biodiversity, which is the different types of animals and plants that we have, and how if we have an endangered animal and then we lose that animal or that plant, then it upsets the cycle, and then our sustainability in the environmental sector is at risk. And waste management, right? How we get rid of our trash. So, so again, as you get into the chapters, this will be hopefully interesting and some chords about what you've studied before or in your internships, etc. And obviously, all these ideas are things that you will encounter when you get into the workforce as managers, having to make ethical decisions about these sustainability issues. So each of these major sustainability topics has an overlap with one of those. So the socio-environmental. This is environmental preservation, access to potable water, and breathable air, and environmental hazard management. So again, I'm talking about how the environment affects the social situation. So this, an example that I used to like to think of for this one is Mexico City, right? Mexico City is doing great socially, right? It's progressing, it's becoming less of an underdeveloped nation, less of a third world place. People are having more wealth, they're having more education, their life expectancy is getting older, but at the same time, their environmental piece is at risk. There's huge smog, right? There's pollution everywhere, it's dirty, etc. So Mexico City has a little bit of a conflict when we talk about socio-environmental sustainability. So again, like if you're a manager and you have these types of decisions, you know, where do you make that decision, right? And all these different things to consider. Socioeconomic, so we'll talk about the one between social and economic stability. This is fair trade, workers' rights, business ethics. And this comes back to that business case that you'll be writing that 15-page paper on in a couple of weeks. So the clothing, right? So fair trade, workers' rights. Are the people who make that item from H&M, are they treated properly in Asia? Good question, Joe? No, okay. So I think of an example for this one is, I have a girlfriend, she works for Intex. Anybody know what Intex is? Intex is the company that does a lot of our air mattresses and floaties, anything that, you know, the rubber things for little kids when you go in the school, any of those, not rubber, plastic items. And so they're headquartered here in Long Beach, and she's the creative director. So she does all of their graphic design and all of their ads and promotion and things. And so she had to go to China to see the factory where they produce all these things. And she said it's crazy, right? Hundreds of thousands of people coming to work every day. They sleep, 6 people to a room in these 2 bunk beds. They wake up early in the morning. They go to breakfast like these little robots. They eat, they work, they put together these air mattresses. They blow them up with quality control. They put them down. They put them in the box, etc. They feed them lunch, dinner, and then they go to sleep. And they work there for whatever 6-8 months, and they send money back to their families, and then they come again. So, is this fair trade, right? Is this lifestyle ethical? Is this person who's creating your air mattress, are they looked at as a person, or are they looked at as just a number, right? Are they getting fed properly? Are they getting enough sleep? Right? And so here we're talking about social, but also economic stability too, right? So we need these products, right? We rely on these products. So, and also are the rich getting richer, right? As we see very much in China, right? The people who own these factories, very wealthy. The people who make these mattresses, not so wealthy. Right? And so, as you can see, there are endless topics and examples in the business world, and we can think about these ideas. And as I said, over the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about frameworks to take these problems apart to understand where the different people are coming from, where the different stakeholders are coming from, the owners of the company, the employees, the managers, etc. Questions on socioeconomic. And the last one, eco-environmental, is the cross between economical and environmental, resource efficiency, energy conservation, pollution regulation. And so I think of the gas prices in this one, right? When President Biden came in, he hiked up our gas prices because he put a tax and on the gas, and he wants us to use our cars less because we have a lot of smog, we have a lot of pollution. And so he's encouraging us to bring our car usage down. But at the same time, how does this affect our economy? What about the people in Texas who provide us all that oil and gas, right? What about their wealth? But more importantly, what about the people who really need their cars every day, which is the poor, right? They need to get their cars to get to work. And maybe the rich, they can work from home. They're more flexible. They don't need to use their cars, etc. So again, putting these taxes on the gas is not necessarily a simple thing. There are lots of different things to consider economically and environmentally. Good. Let's go ahead and hop into the next slide. So now this is our SDGs from the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm going to open up the website from the UN, and we're going to go outside in a couple of minutes, and we're going to pair up just like we did last time. And each of you is going to choose one of these goals and how it pertains to your goal after graduation. So if there's a particular company that you work for, a particular industry, which of these goals do you find most interesting or you're most passionate about? And how does that overlap with your industry goals? I'm going to go through them here in just a minute so that it's clear. I'm going to pair you up with different partners, and you're going to, again, introduce each partner, tell us their name, and tell us your ideas and hopes for after graduation and how and which goal that connects to. So hopefully that's make more sense here in a second. So the first one is no poverty. And so this is ending poverty in all forms everywhere, right? So we will use this website quite a bit in this course. And so I'm not going to click into the more info, but you can see that if you want to find out more about how the United Nations is helping to end poverty, there are 7 targets, 31 publications, great resource opportunities, 34 events, and 850 actions. Oh, and so just to review, this all comes from the United Nations, right? So the United Nations, hopefully everybody is somewhat familiar with that. It's a governing body or in New York for the most part, and they encourage all countries around the world to partake in their initiatives. And when I was in business school in 2002, we kind of thought maybe the United Nations was on its way out because it's somewhat old and stodgy, and it takes a lot of time for these initiatives to get through and get approved. But it's still around now, 20 years later, because it is such a pillar of the sustainable global environment and society. And yes, there are startups there that maybe are faster, more nimble, but the United Nations still is the traditional place where countries can come together to talk about how they like to create these initiatives and implement these initiatives. And during the Trump administration, the UN was a big topic, right? Because Trump pulled out a lot of their protocols, which we'll talk about. And now Biden is slowly starting to rejoin these things. And so I'm not saying, again, it's an ethics class, so we can debate, whether it's one is right and one's not, but it has been a hotter topic in recent years because of the how the U.S. so drastically pulled out of a lot of these initiatives because they did not agree with them. So anyway, so there's no poverty. The next one is zero hunger. So maybe you're passionate about ending hunger, achieving food security and improved nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. And so maybe you have an interest in working with a nonprofit organization that helps people abroad with ending hunger. In this country, we don't really have a huge hunger issue, but we definitely have a sustainable agriculture issue, right? Using fertilizers and things that help keep the soil being able to reproduce on a regular basis. The next one is good health and well-being, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. This is one of my personal passions, right? As I said, when I'm not here, I'm a consultant. I help implement yoga and mindfulness programs for companies throughout Los Angeles. And so I'm really passionate about making sure that employees feel that the company cares about their well-being, that the company is providing these places for them to exercise, to be reflective, to ground, to be better employees. And so that also goes with creating nutrition programs. And so, yeah, if I was doing this exercise, I might say at graduation, I want to be a consultant for mindfulness programs because I'm passionate about ensuring healthy lives promote well-being for all. Good. And if I wasn't doing goal number 3, I'd be doing goal number 4. This is ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. I'm a huge proponent of education, obviously, right, because I teach. And I just think that education is so valuable because it helps sustainability in that it helps people get better jobs, it helps people have greater discussions, it helps the economy develop, greater life expectancy, etc. So when people are educated, that society has better chances of being more successful. And then I'll go through the rest of these here. Gender equality, hopefully that should be pretty clear, right? We've heard a lot about empowering women and girls over the last few years. And again, you don't have to have this as your main focus for your main job. When I was at Citibank, I was an engineer, 9 to 5, but like every third Tuesday, I would go to a lunch where we would talk about how we could create opportunities for women in leadership at Citibank, right? And so you might say, in my future career, I would like to potentially be on a committee at my organization that helps women. Okay, good. Clean water and sanitation, ensure the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Affordable and clean energy, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. So again, this is, cars. The Tesla is a great one. Maybe you want to work for Tesla. Maybe you want to work for a solar energy company. Decent work and economic growth. So a lot of people last section chose this one, promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. So that goes back to, again, your paper. Maybe that's helping employees in China. Or a lot of students in the last section, I had like 2 or 3 students that had family businesses back in the Philippines. And they wanted to make sure that the employees that worked at their companies in the Philippines were treated fairly. The next one is industry. Industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Right now, the United States is going through and trying to approve an infrastructure bill, right? So this is all about making sure that our trains, our roads, our bridges have a solid foundation. And because again, that's a sustainable environment, right, going forward, right? If we have situations like in Miami, where that building fell, right, people get really nervous about purchasing, buying, living, and then society does not move forward as quickly as it could be. Okay, reduce inequality within and among countries. Sustainable cities and communities, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. There's lots to unpack here when you talk about a city. As I said, I was a civil engineer, and so I studied for 4 years about how cities affect society, right? Making sure you have enough parks, making sure that the poorest neighborhoods are not next to the freeway. So yeah, making sure that the way that cities are designed create a sustainable society. Responsible consumption and production, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. This is about trash. Right? Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. If you're passionate about that. Next one, life below water. Conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Chapter 9, that talks a lot about this, which is in just, I think, 2 weeks. And I mentioned in the lecture that I reported just a few days ago that my cousin, she works for the Navy in Honolulu. She's a toxicologist, and she's really passionate about the coral reefs because of oil spills and sunscreen and all the different chemicals that go into the ocean, right below water. We're destroying the coral reefs. And when we start to destroy a plant or an animal, we upset the whole system. And so her job is to every day set protocol for how the United States treats the coral reefs and making sure that the oceans are more free of chemicals. So maybe you want to work for the Navy doing something like this. Protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably manage forests, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. We'll talk a lot about trees in this course, right? How people are cutting down trees to make paper products, but we can't grow trees fast enough to create all the paper products that we need. Right? Has anybody gone on a service project to Latin America and experienced deforestation? Okay. I had 2 students in the last section that did, and I too. I went to Panama when I was an undergrad. You just see these huge fields of trees that are just cut down, and takes many, many years for the trees to grow back. Okay, and the last one is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Promote peaceful, inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So this is all about creating peaceful ways for people to vocalize their ideas. And the example that I thought of for goal 16 was those people who are against the COVID vaccine. Right now, there is no place for the people who are against the vaccine to voice those concerns, right? The government, many governments around the world are just like, everyone needs to get the vaccine, end of story. But it's an ethical decision, right? That we still need a place for people who are against this issue to have a vehicle to voice their opinions. We want to be able to hear both sides of the story. So this is goal 16, in that we've created these societies or create these groups, at least for people to be able to vocalize these ideas. even if you're not for the idea, they should have a place to vocalize that. Okay, good. And then the last one, partnerships for goals. This is just to, this is all about making sure that all of these goals come to fruition or have a place to come to fruition. So I didn't print this. You're welcome to pull it up on your device, but hopefully you chose, as we went through those, you chose one of those SDGs and you thought of an example of how you might apply that in your life after LMU. We'll go ahead and head outside. I'm going to pair you up real quick before we go. I'm going to try and pair you up with someone who you haven't spoken with already. So I don't see all of your name tags. So actually, if you can pull out your name tags. Danielle, okay, good. So Danielle, go to me, right? Okay, so then Annalise, why don't you go to JP? You guys can go together here. You can go together before, right?
No.
Okay, good. And then you can go with Ryan behind you. Okay, good. And then Tomas, you can go with Dylan. And Daniel, you can go with Taylor. John, you can go with Brandon. Did you guys go together last time? Okay, shoot. And you were getting, okay, got it. So let's have Brandon go with Taylor. And Sanjay. Oh, Army. Okay, got it. Army goes with John. Perfect. We'll go outside and we'll do it outside so we can take off our masks. Come back, so you don't have to take off your mask.
that.
My bad.
I'm talking. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then others, like the playground.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, good. So for the, skip this reflection revisit, because I think we already went through it for the most part. Now we're gonna go into this 90-second discussion forum. So it's all on Brightspace. So if you have a laptop or a device where you can log into Brightspace, go ahead and do that. If you don't, then you can just take some notes, and then tonight at some stage you can log into Brightspace. What you're gonna do is you're gonna click on your class 2 course framework, and then week 1, weekly 90-second reflections, and that'll open up your it'll open up the discussion. But the idea question,
Do you have anything specific that you want us to title it, or just write it?
it's up to you. I would title it, going back to our thesis idea, title it whatever is the main point of your post. So if you're talking about one of the SDGs, let's say SDG number 8 or something like that, or maybe you're talking about the SDGs in general, say like SDG review or something like this, or gorillas, something pertinent that kind of summarizes your post. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we spoke about tell the class your top key takeaway, reflection from the last 2 classes, and then you're going to comment on 3 student posts in that, right? So it should open up here, and then you start a new thread, and you can post something. Question?
I don't know if it's just my computer, but it's not even, it's just on the previous subject.
Let's see. Is everybody? Oops.
Recording.
Let's see. Sorry, I was in section 1.
I think it's just my.
Is it? Okay. Okay, great. I'm glad. Hopefully we can figure that out. But yeah, one of my top goals is to make sure that Brightspace is clear for you guys and works and everything. And while you do that, I'm going to do the seating chart. So if you don't have your name tent out, if you could put your name tent out, that would be great. If you don't have a name tent, you just use any piece of paper. That would be great. Thank you. And was there any questions on the discussion forum? Right, as I said, by midnight tonight, you should post your 3 comments, and then I'll wait it tomorrow morning. What's your first name?
Chris.
Chris. Okay, good. Okay, no problem. That's right. Okay, good. We're just about done. And as I said, if you don't finish now with your 3 posts or initial posts, you have until midnight to do that today. And also on Monday or on Wednesday, we'll start with our reflections. We didn't do that today, but if you haven't signed up for a reflection, a date for your reflection, go ahead and do that. And Faisal, if you have any questions about what to do for next Wednesday for your reflection, just let me know. It's a 3-minute reflection where we start the class and talk about any type of idea that you'd like, gratitude or show a video or
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
you know, yeah. Good. Good. Any last questions or comments for me?
Can we sign up for a date as well?
You haven't, you haven't yet?
I have not.
Okay, got it. I'm not signed in, and you can see there are a lot of dates left. So I would just suggest going into Brightspace and under, here it is, under class 1 introduction, there's the sign up sheet for leading the reflection, and then you can choose whatever date it is that you want. Good. Any other questions? Okay. And as I said, your homework for next Wednesday, because we're off on Monday, is to read chapter 1 and watch the videos of me presenting chapter 1, because as you see in Brightspace that that what we're going to do is come in and review the Uber app. Okay. So oops, hold on. Everything is here. So the videos are here of me presenting chapter 1. And we're gonna go through the Uber case on Wednesday when we come back. Okay, great. Thanks for coming. All right, have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, nice to meet you guys again. Okay, and if guys, if you wanna not go on Wednesday, you wanna change your date, that's okay too, and I can make the reflection on Wednesday the 8th.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind going on Wednesday, so if I have any questions, I'll just.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that sounds great. Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. Good, thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
All right, great. Yeah, nice to meet you. Hi.
I'm on 3, right? Sorry, I know you said that to make sure.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. 3. Yep. Mhm. Yep, we're all set. Okay, bye. All right, nice to meet you. Okay, I can ask you soon. Okay, good. Yeah, any questions?
Right, more of an idea, but I kind of want to bounce off.
Okay.
So,
Uh-huh.
so this very much relates to what we were talking about, or I guess, the goals that we were talking about.
Okay.
So I used to be an econ major.
Okay.
And I took this urban economics class.
Okay, cool.
And we had to write for one of our midterms,
Okay.
we had to write an essay. And the prompt was solve the California housing crisis by utilizing like 5 different things: housing, public transportation, and a couple of other things.
Okay.
So I want to go into real estate. So it's just right up my alley. I had an idea. I got a really good grade on the paper.
Okay.
My professor contacted me about it. Wait, I said we should actually try to do this. And I'm actually
Oh,
thinking about it.
okay.
So,
Great.
COVID homelessness is at an all-time high,
Right.
right? So my idea, I guess, it helps homeless people get back up on their feet,
Okay.
but it's also a 2-parter. So it also helps drug addicts, homeless drug addicts,
Okay.
get over it. And, yeah. So have you heard of tiny homes?
I have actually, yeah. Yeah. But those really small.
Yeah, under 400 square feet.
Right. Okay, cool.
So I found a way to make them really cheap. You can make one using concrete in this specific construction method for $3,600.
Wow.
So, and then backtracks. The problem with why people aren't able to get clean when they're addicted to drugs is I've found that through the research that I've seen, it's mainly because they're around it all the time. They can't escape it. They go outside, it's easy to go by it. And so there's always something on the corner, right?
Okay.
So you have to get them out of the city in a more controlled environment.
Okay.
So the idea is build these tiny home villages
Okay.
outside of the major city, not super far.
Right.
But step 1 is get people who are addicted to drugs into this tiny home kind of village where they go do their rehab,
Okay.
and then get them. And then once they go through the rehab, then they go to this other site, this other tiny home village, where then they can live more independently and they're less monitored. And then there's then they can go take courses for a community college and get back on their feet. And they can talk to a career counselor, and then they can go be productive members of society again.
Okay.
So I guess I'm asking you
Okay.
is, when in my life should I try to do this? 'Cause I want you to-
Right. Right, I'd say that, right, whenever you feel that you have like the right contacts or the right experience to do something like that. And, I guess it also depends on if it conflicts with your, wanting to get a full-time job after graduation or something like that, right? That's obviously the part of it. And you're a junior, right?
Senior.
A senior still, okay, got it, okay, all right. So, okay, got it. So, yeah, and I'd say like continue to develop the idea. And
For sure.
like even for your ethical paper, like feel free to use the ethical paper for that project too. Like if you don't want to do fashion or the COVID, because it's kind of COVID related in some ways. And so like use the paper to develop the idea even further. And I think that once you like feel like it's developed, then you'll be more confident on like what who the contacts would be to initiate something like that. So, yeah, I'd say like it definitely sounds like a good idea, and like you have like all the details together, and you're doing research on it, and so I think like use this year to like really
Yeah.
prove it exactly, and by graduation, then decide like if you need to get a full-time job or is it something that you'd like to.
Probably. But I mean, I haven't heard of anything done like that before, and like tiny home, like that's a
Right.
more radical concept in real estate, it's full of old people and stuff. So,
Totally.
what do you think? Of the
Yeah,
idea?
I think it's good. And in Venice, they just opened up this whole housing development using trailers. So mobile trailers. It's right on Main Street, Rose and Main Street. So it's like right downtown Venice. And it's just like 6 months ago or so. So I feel like that's kind of along the same lines, I guess. And
Yeah.
we have these trailer homes, new trailers, and then they rent them out for the homeless.
Just
So, yeah, so I think that the price there is also, look at that. Do research on what city competitors are for the idea. And, yeah, I think they somewhat similar.
yeah. Other question, because I was gone for the entire summer.
Okay,
So I was in Dallas,
right,
and so I was working as like a multi-company analyst.
right,
I had been here, like I just got back like, a couple weeks ago.
okay,
I'm from San Francisco. I'm
okay.
used to seeing homeless people everywhere,
Right,
and same with LA. When I left, it was like, normally like what you would expect. What happened?
exploded, I know.
There's people like by the driving range, like the
know.
park there was tense. Is there anything that happened that I missed? 'Cause I haven't
I
heard
know,
anything.
right? No, nothing in particular. Totally, I live like nearby and everything, and it's been a huge topic that, yeah, nobody has identified a reason or anything, but, I mean, there's that blaming Bowman, like
He's on the council.
Right.
I've seen a lot of recall.
exactly,
Smart.
we're going to blame him for all this explosion, but I don't know, I'm sure there are people to be blamed for this, but.
I've heard that he's done some things, so I'm also not, in a way, I'm not.
It's hard to keep track of all the issues.
Like, what are they claiming that he's done?
That he has put into, he's created an ordinance that the police don't have a right to take these people out of these public spaces. That the homeless people have a right to be there and really to set up shop wherever they please. And nobody is stopping them from setting up there. And so they just like didn't agree on it.
What are your thoughts on?
I don't know. Like, I think your solution is a good one because I feel like there has to be a place for these people to go. Like, this is not a new problem.
Yeah.
Like, well, cities have been doing this for decades. So I don't understand why there's such a crisis now. I personally don't think it's because of COVID.
It's not the middle of the pandemic anymore. That's when,
Exactly,
no, middle of the
exactly.
pandemic, like if you're laid off and you become homeless, the money that you have, it would have happened in the middle of the pandemic because we're running out of money. I'm like, not
I
now.
know, right,
What's happening?
totally.
I'm just perplexed.
Exactly, I know, it's a great research project, but I'm sure there's a lot of information out there, so different sides of the story. And
Yeah.
people that people about, but from what I've heard, there's no true, there's no there's no reason that people said this is the one other reason, and there's no solution right now.
Like something's gotta happen. These are people.
Right, exactly, right?
Oh, separate question.
Okay,
Are there any opportunities for extra credit?
I don't do extra credit,
Okay.
but I do allow you guys to resubmit. So if something comes in and it's totally off, or even if it's just a little bit off and you want to take the energy to revise it, I'm happy to look at it again and regrade it.
That'll be me. We'll be submitting early.
Okay, good, right, because
So-
that's super helpful if people submit early.
Yeah, I won't be asking for.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, thank
Excellent.
you.
All right, have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.